It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Thompson Sales, Fast Break Sports, and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, big thank you to you for tuning in this week. We're going to talk some NFL football with the Chiefs kicking off on Friday night. And nobody better to visit about the Chiefs with than Nick Athan of Chiefs Blitz. Nick, thanks for joining me this morning.
I'm doing good, Scott. How are you doing? My pleasure. Anytime.
You betcha. I know we're both up early and knocking this out. Of course, the Chiefs open up Friday night in Brazil. Right. How excited are they in your mind, you think, about Brazil opening and a Friday night?
I don't think they're very excited about going to Brazil.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Yeah.
It's 13. I don't know. I've heard 10 hours, 12 hours, 13. They're leaving this morning if they haven't left already. Then they'll do a big press thing tomorrow on Thursday and then the game Friday night. I mean, I'm excited as a fan for this season to start. I think it's a good opponent. I think it's going to be a good gauge. I'm just praying that the field is in better shape than it was a year ago when the Packers and the Eagles played. And obviously Jordan got hurt. So I think from a coaching perspective and a player perspective, I would say 90% of them are not happy that they're having to travel that far for the first game. But, as far as the excitement goes for the season, it's the revenge tour. And, that's what it's going to be. You've already got, you've already got everybody picking the Chargers. I mean, even Nick Wright, my buddy, my fellow Barstow High School grad from Kansas City, is predicting that the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, which I don't see. Yeah. The Broncos are going to upset the Chiefs this year, though I will say Broncos, I think, have the best defense in football. So, you get all this hype and you get all this. And as a fan, I look at it like this, Scott. It's like, okay, we're playing football again in 2 days. Yeah. That Super Bowl loss is still here. It's not like at the front of the cortex, but at the end of the day, for me personally, I can't wait for the game, for football to start again. In fact, it starts tomorrow night with the Cowboys and the Eagles. And it's just, it's time to play football again. And the college football palette was nice. Yeah. Though there's a huge game, Kansas versus Missouri this weekend. So it's going to be a fun weekend if you're a sports fan and you love football.
Absolutely. I want to mention our sponsors, The Pitch Pizza and Pub, Thompson Sales. We'll talk more about them at the end of the podcast as we do each week. Nick Athan, been a longtime guest of my radio days with Ned Reynolds and I when we used to talk on the Jock about the Chiefs and bring him in. Now, ChiefsBlitz.com, great website, lots of Chiefs information. And then you guys do your own podcast 3 times a week, pregame, postgame. Kind of tell us the rundown now that we're in season for Chiefs Blitz.
Yeah, ChiefsBlitz.com. It's a website dedicated, obviously, to the Chiefs. We put a lot of content up there, a lot of articles. Excuse me. And then we also have a podcast called At Chiefs Blitz. Just check it on YouTube. Please subscribe. We appreciate that. We just hit over almost 2,100 subscribers, so we're pretty excited about that. It's just 4 guys. We just banter back and forth, talk Chiefs, just like you would sitting in a bar with your buddies or watching the game day in your living room. But we do show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1:30 Central Time. We do a pregame show on game days and a postgame show as well. So we'll have this Friday, we'll have a pregame show in the afternoon and a postgame after the show. We may do a live broadcast during the game. It just kind of depends on, everybody's schedule and stuff like that. But we try to put a lot of content out there. As you know, Scott, I'm an old dog, just like you. Been around this team since the 60s. Hank Stram and Bobby Bell were my neighbors growing up. So, that's still at the forefront of my fandom. But, we just decided, to set up Chiefs Blitz a couple years ago. It's gone really well. So check it out. Like our YouTube channel at Chiefs Blitz. And, we just talk Chiefs. That's all we do.
You got the impressive setup there in the background of your home studio there.
Yes.
That's years and years, decades of collecting memorabilia. Are there any prized possessions in that group right over your shoulders?
Well, there's a couple of things. The Kansas City Chiefs poster there that's actually Otis Taylor, who was probably next to Lenny Dawson, my favorite Chiefs player. That was a Sports Illustrated poster that was done prior to Super Bowl IV. And then on the flip side, I've got 33 of the Super Bowl IV participants signed on a poster. And of course, my AFL Lenny Dawson jersey and a signed photo from him. Lenny was my hero growing up. I have all the top row of those mini helmets are all Len Dawson signed. I've got a large helmet signed. It says Lenny the Cool Dawson, which he never signed. I think I've seen one other in my entire lifetime that he did anything that way. So I've got the large helmet. So I'm in the process at chiefsblitz.com. It's fine. It's time to let it go. I have 1,000 pieces. This is just a small sampling of all the crap I have. And I've moved this stuff twice, and we got a house about a year and a half ago, and I put it up as I said, whatever I can display, I'm going to try to keep, but everything else has got to go. So I'm going to have a store at chiefsblitz.com for people who are looking for stuff from the 60s. I got Royals, Chiefs, Jayhawks. I've got a lot of Miracle on Ice stuff as well, and some very unique one-of-a-kind items.
When do you anticipate the storefront being up?
It should be up next week. So, everybody can check it out at chiefsblitz.com. There'll be a banner up there. It says store, and they'll be able to buy the stuff. And it's been a process. Scott, I've been collecting since I was 8-9 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm 63 now, and I've just had a lot of stuff, and I buy and sell. It's kind of what I also do that. I buy collections and I sell them off and keep things here and there. But for the most part, it's been a great business. It's been a lot of fun. But you reach a point where it's time to share it with some other people. Of course, you got to buy it. I'm not giving it away.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a charity. Yeah,
in this room.
Yeah. You touched on it at the beginning about the revenge tour, and it seems like if you went through all 32 NFL teams, somebody would have some kind of a theme going into this year. Right. Like that. It's this or that. But with the Chiefs last year, it was the three-peat effort,
right?
And that failed miserably in the Super Bowl with the Eagles loss. Is this, obviously it's a chip on their shoulder. Is this motivation, you think, stronger than it was last year to win the three-peat?
I think this is the strongest mental aura I've seen from the Chiefs. And I think I go back to if you've watched the Chiefs Kingdom ESPN series, and you go back and you see the emotion of that loss, they were so focused on the three-peat, and it was almost to their detriment. And because it was like, it was never done before. The fact they got to 3 straight Super Bowls is awesome. The fact that they had a chance to get that three-peat, but you could tell from pregame that they seemed overwhelmed. They had the entire Eagles nation. They had the entire NFL nation. Nobody wanted to see them win. Yeah. And they were beating each other, and they were beating on this team in the negative press. And I think it just collapsed. I think it got to them. And I think the moment wasn't, not that it was too big for them. It was just, you had an avalanche against you. And I think now the way they lost, the way they played, and they realized that. And if you watch the series closely, there's a lot of golden nuggets in there about how, it was a lot of pressure and they didn't play well and they took responsibility. And, for the leader, Patrick Mahomes, 2 days later after that loss, he's in the gym. He's working out. He's like saying, enough of this. So everybody I've talked to has said the same thing about Patrick Mahomes, just in particular. He is as focused as they've ever seen. He cut his hair. He spent the entire offseason mainly in Kansas City, spending time with his family and working out. He traveled a lot last year, and I think this year he was really, really focused on, what do I have to do to defend and to wash the bad taste of that Super Bowl loss? Because let's be honest, the Eagles were the best team in football last year. They would have beat any NFL team, any Super Bowl combatant in the 59-year history that day. They were just on, and kudos to Nick Sirianni, who had that team, humming and ready to go. Defense, offense, special teams, they just dominated the Chiefs. And if you look at that game, you can go back and say, well, there are 3 or 4 plays. If the Chiefs hadn't done this, it's a game in the fourth quarter. And I believe that would have been the case. But the revenge tour, I think, is real. I think it's deeper, it's stronger than the three-peat tour. To a man, coaches, general manager, ownership, the players, the medical staff. I mean, just look at the fact that the Chiefs have a single injury heading into the opener tomorrow night, and that's Jalen Royals, who didn't even make the trip. So when you look at the preparation and what they've had to accomplish, and what's ahead of them, I wouldn't want to play the Chiefs this year. I wouldn't want to play the Chiefs in the postseason this year. I think they're going to be as motivated as ever. And I think this is going to be the best year of Patrick Mahomes' career. And I would not be surprised if they match the win total from last year.
Not to get sidetracked, because I got some questions about
Sure.
Pat. Whatever happened to Jackson Mahomes? Did Patrick just kind of kick him to the curb in terms of all the public, seeing him on TV with him and all that? Because he's kind of disappeared. I know he had some legal issues potentially there. Is that did Patrick's people say, hey, we need to get Les Jackson in the family scenes here?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him this entire offseason. So, I mean, I know he was at the Super Bowl, and that's the last I've seen of him. And, when you've got, listen, the hardest thing successful NFL athletes have to deal with is family and their entourage. You and I have been around long enough, and we've seen it. Back in the old days, it was family. It was family. It was just family. And now it's like you get these guys who get drafted and they come from areas where they don't have a lot of money, and they've had all these buddies who've supported them. Perfect case is Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, started hanging out with his buddies again after the Super Bowl, and look what happened. He gets suspended. He's going to lose millions of dollars of a future contract to pay for restitution and settle all the lawsuits. And you know what? You gotta wake up and you gotta snap out of it. And fortunately for him, he did. He got rid of his entourage. But that's the most difficult thing, is to have family members who might be in the press. I mean, Patrick's had to deal with his dad. He's had a couple of DUI incidents. Listen, he loves his family. He's got 3 kids. He's got a great wife. I mean, he has got it all. Yeah. But, he's had to manage that. But he has the money and he has the stature, whereas some guys who are fresh out of college, who made a few bucks in college, have got their buddies and their entourage around them, even when they bring them to the Kansas City when they get drafted, or other cities in the NFL, and they get it, and sometimes they get in trouble. I could tell you a ton of stories about how these entourages have ruined careers of a lot of NFL players, including Chiefs players. So, I think they've handled it. He's handled it well. I don't think there's any distractions going into this year. They are focused to a man to avenge last year.
It's almost like, other sports became like the boxing entrance. When you saw a fighter come through 20 years ago, and there were 15 to 20 people around him and nodding their heads, looking tough. And that's what pro sports have become now, the NBA and the NFL and everything else. But
and social media hasn't helped.
That's exactly. They all want to be a piece.
Now we know everything, where in the past we didn't know a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fight outside the stadium in Ireland with the K-State quarterback's family.
Yeah.
Before social media, we would have never known that a dad and a son got into it out front. Now there's 15 people that whip out their phone the minute it starts, to get that out there. It's
don't get me started on parents who live through their athlete children.
Yeah.
That's another show altogether.
And this is, we got a lot of fantasy football people out there. It's, I'm addicted. I need to get some help for it. But the last 2 years, Patrick, in that realm of things, and it translates into real football too.
Sure.
Has been a dink and dunk guy, and not throwing the ball downfield, and everything is within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. All off season, we've heard the vows that that's going to change.
Right.
Do you believe it? Do they come out starting Friday night against the Chargers and start taking shots down to Worthy and Hollywood Brown and guys like that?
I would be shocked if the first play from scrimmage isn't a 50-yard bomb to Worthy. I mean, I think you saw, Tyquan Thornton had a really nice one. Patrick really only played a lot in the last game against the Bears. he played into the second quarter, which was good. And you saw that offense humming. I mean, they should have had 3 touchdowns, had Kareem Hunt not dropped that touchdown pass in the end zone, and that would have been 3 perfect drives. I think you're going to see Patrick push the envelope. He was really hesitant last year. And for all the accolades you give Patrick Mahomes, and trust me, there are medals and honors and trophies and MVPs all over the place. His long ball, isn't quite what it should be. And so he and Andy Reid focused a lot on lofting the ball more, letting the receivers run under it instead of trying to throw it to a spot. And it's easier said than done. None of us can do it. No one can throw the ball 60 yards in the air. But I think that, I think you're going to see the 2019 version of the Chiefs offense. Granted, they had Tyreek Hill, but they've got Worthy now. They've got Hollywood Brown now. When Rashee Rice comes back, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals when he gets healthy. I mean, that's the best wide receiver group the Chiefs have ever had. You throw in, veteran Juju Smith-Schuster in there, who I think is going to have an incredible year. And he's kind of the coach for the wide receiver room. They've got a lot of weapons, and you throw in the running backs. So I think you're going to see a downfield aerial attack very similar to what we saw in 2019 and parts of 2020.
Let's talk about Worthy. Really came on strong in the playoffs in particular. With no Rice on the sidelines, or Rice on the sidelines, not on the field. Rice starts this year with a 6-game suspension. Is this Worthy's chance to be 1 or 1A, while Rice is out? And what kind of step does he take forward in year 2?
Well, I think I think when you go to about I think when the Chiefs were entering that 3-game stretch of 3 games in 11 days, Andy Reid said, okay, I'm going to make some changes in the offensive line, which he did, putting Thuney outside. And he goes, we got to make Xavier Worthy the focal point of the offense. Travis Kelce was a little dinged up, probably more dinged up than we realized, to the end of last year. And so Andy just rode the offense through Worthy, and you saw that. You saw that in the last 5 games of the year. You saw that in that 3-game stretch. You saw that in the postseason. You saw it in the Super Bowl. So I think he's going to have that extra motivation to know that he's the guy. I don't think he ever views himself as replacing Rashee Rice or being the number 1 guy. It's making the most of his opportunities. And now they've got Tyquan Thornton, who is, struggled. He was drafted, 2nd-round pick from the Patriots. He struggled, but he's another fast guy. And you put both those guys on the field at the same time, then it kind of opens things up. And of course, you still have Travis Kelce, who I think is going to have over 1,000 yards. But I think for Worthy, I don't see a sophomore slump. I see a guy who probably is going to have about 1,200, maybe 1,250, yards receiving and also running the ball. They'll do a lot of sweeps with him. So I think the best is yet to come. And what I like about Worthy more than probably some people is his toughness. I mean, he's 175, 178 maybe. And he got pummeled pretty good a few times last year, and he got up and he got back on the field. So he's a little tougher than I thought he was coming out of college.
You touched on the offensive line. Of course, it's hard to throw deep when you're Patrick Mahomes if you're running for your life on most plays. Yeah. And what do you see up front this year? The changes that were made, the re-signings, better line, obviously this year than last year.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, Josh Simmons has been the talk of camp. I mean, kudos to Brett Veach, Josh Simmons, and Josh Simmons' agent, who put out 4 days before the draft that he would not be ready till midseason, if at all. And he fell and fell and fell, and the Chiefs swooped him up. I think the Chiefs wanted to take a defensive player, I really do, but Josh Simmons fell. And you get a chance to get a generational left tackle, you take it. Even if you can't play a snap this year, you still sacrifice. And what Josh Simmons did was, since the surgery in October to repair the patella tendon, which is not an easy injury to overcome at any age. And the fact that he spent the entire time from October through the draft process getting in shape, and he spent once he was drafted, OTAs, mini camps, between mini camp and training camp, he was in Kansas City every day working with the trainers. The guy is motivated. He is arguably the best tackle in this draft. the fact that he fell to 31/32 because the Chiefs made the trade with the Eagles, he's going to be fine. Now he's going to have some growing pains. I'm not putting him in the Willie Roaf class yet, but he has that kind of potential. As far as Kingsley Suamatea, if he can improve his pass rush, if he can handle the pass rush in the blitzes, they'll be fine on the left side because Creed Humphrey can cheat and help him a little bit. Trey Smith, who just got that massive contract, and I think the question is going to be more, at right tackle, who ultimately is the guy there, short term and long term. Jawan Taylor is, everybody believes this is his last year. He's going to make $25 million next year. I don't see that, them carrying him. So they got Jalen Moore, who they signed as a free agent, who was Trent Williams back up in San Francisco. And he spent a lot of time working at right tackle. So I'll be curious to see who starts tomorrow night. I don't think it's a given that it's Jawan Taylor. But if Andy does find the best five and they can give Patrick an extra second on every pass play, that's the difference between 21, 22, 23 points and 30. And it's all this kid needs. And I think that's the mentality that they're firing on heading into it. Josh Simmons has said, no one's going to get my quarterback. Kingsley Suamatea is a big boy. I mean, he's got size. His footwork is to be designed. Now, if you want to establish the run, Kingsley's one of the best run blockers they have. But his pass protection is, and it's all that first step. He rocks back too far. He doesn't plant his feet. He doesn't go into the defender that's coming at him. He waits for the defender to make a move. These are things I think are correctable. If not, Jalen Moore probably moves to left guard. And so the Chiefs have some offenses. They've got some good backups as well. So I'm confident they'll figure it out in the offensive line. I'm not as worried about the offensive line as some other people are.
The running game, we saw a shell of himself, Isaiah Pacheco, come back from the fractured leg, and honestly, it looked like maybe he should have not come back at all. He was running gingerly, just had lost a step. The preseason version we've seen in limited doses this year looks like the old Pacheco. Do you see a big year from him? And is Kareem Hunt more of just a spell Pacheco thing this year, or how do you see the backfield playing out?
Well, I think there's no question that Brashard Smith's the future. Okay. And I don't think the future is going to be this year. Now, I think second half of the season after the bye week, you'll probably see him get more reps. But I think Pacheco he's in the best shape of his career. He's healthy. I'm not a huge, I got to sign this guy to a long-term contract guy with Pacheco. I think Pacheco has this head down run thing, and I really want to see more vision. I want to see him, if it's not there at the, initial step on the line of scrimmage, be patient. Take a half a second. Move to the right, move to the left, find the open gap. If he can ever learn to do the open gaps, this is a 1,200-yard rusher easily. And I think for the Chiefs, he's number one right now. Kareem Hunt is going to be that punisher. He's going to be that guy that's going to get you that 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, catch a swing pass. He's going to be the go-to guy. And his value to this team, I think, is immense. Because Pacheco can't get you that 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. He's just not that kind of runner, especially when it's stacked against the line of scrimmage because he can't identify the holes, whereas Hunt kind of has a little Marcus Allen in him. If he needs 2, he'll get you 2.5 for 3. Elijah Mitchell, we didn't see anything out of him in preseason. He's one of the fastest running backs out there. The fact that Chiefs kept 4 running backs is interesting. Obviously they can't get rid of Brashard Smith. I mean, he should have been a 4th round pick. I was screaming for joy in the 7th round when they grabbed him. That was the most excited I was in the entire draft for the Chiefs. Though I love this draft class. I think it's going to be better than 2022 when we talk in a couple of years from now. But I think for Pacheco, this is it. It's contract year. I see very little chance the Chiefs are going to sign him to an extension. I think it's going to be Brashard Smith's offense in 2026. And that kid is super talented. He's got speed. He's got vision. He knows how to block. He can be an every down back. He's the future. But right now it's Pacheco and Hunt, and who knows what we get out of Mitchell. The Chiefs are going to carry 3 running backs per game, so someone's going to have to sit. So it's going to be interesting to see who sits. Now, the Chiefs have made Andy Reid is focused a lot on getting Brashard Smith active in the passing game. He was a wide receiver at Miami for 3 years. Then he goes to SMU as a running back when his coach moved and said, hey, will you do this? What do you have? 1,900 all-purpose yards, including returning. So he's got a lot of value to the Chiefs. But they designed a lot of plays for him in training camp and in the offseason. I think that I think he's probably going to play tomorrow night, Friday night. I'd like to see him on the field. He's the guy I'm most excited about in the entire offense, to be honest with you.
Well, like most people, we've spent so much time talking about the offense because it's a fantasy
Yes,
world we live in. But the last guy I want to touch on there, and then we'll kind of just talk about the defense as a whole. But Travis Kelce turns 36 in October. The Travis Kelce we watched last year, as you said, was dinged up, probably more so than anybody knows. Looked like he took plays off. I mean, you'd watch some times where in the past he would roam with Patrick to get open, as a safety valve. Last year looked like he just set, and not move. How motivated is he this year? Why is he back? And is this it for Travis Kelce this year?
Well, I think he's going to have a 1,000-yard season. I think he's going to break Jerry Rice's postseason records this year. If the Chiefs are fortunate to get the number 1 seed, it may be a little bit more difficult, which I hope they do. But I think Kelce, he worked out a lot in Florida with his now fiance. Have a nice spread down there in Florida. He spent a lot of time down there. He got in shape. He's not going to have some of the distractions he had a year ago. He traveled a lot, seeing Taylor, and as he should. He's earned this right. He's earned this place. But I think I'm not going to sit here and say he wasn't focused on football and that football wasn't the top priority, because it always is with Travis. But now, he's got a balanced life. He has a great family off the field. He's getting married to the love of his life. He's got, a father figure in Andy Reid. He's got good support in the family. And I don't think this is his last year. So I'm going to go on record. I think you'll see maybe in October a 1-year extension for Travis. I think he's going to play 2 more years, this year and next year, and then call it quits. I think he wants to go out the same age as Jason. So that would put him at 37, I think. And, the Chiefs are going to welcome him back. And the Chiefs have to have a successor at tight end. And, I'm not sold on Jared Wiley. I haven't seen enough. Noah Gray is what he is. Jake Brenningstool from Clemson, who the Chiefs outbid 17 teams to sign as an undrafted free agent, went on injured reserve. So they're kind of stashing him. I think he's the future. Why he didn't get drafted out of college. I've watched every piece of film on this kid. And if they feel like he can be a guy more productive later this year or next season, I think they're going to want to keep Travis Kelce around to work with him even more than he already has. So for me, Travis Kelce, I'm thinking 8-9 touchdowns, maybe 10, 1,100, 1,000 receiving yards, and chasing Jerry Rice's records. He's only got 2 or 3 left to chase, and I think they're pretty attainable.
Let's switch over to the defense quickly. Obviously, Chris Jones is the man up front. You talk about the revenge tour, that this was a unit that was embarrassed in the Super Bowl, but you'd be hard pressed to find a defense that wouldn't have got embarrassed against that offense.
Yeah, it was impossible.
Kind of give us your summary of the Chiefs defense as a whole. Better or similar to last year? Are there some holes that concern you over there?
I think the biggest hole is they let Mike Pennell go. They're starting nose tackle all off season. He's under the practice squad with the Bengals. They brought Derek Nottie back in a trade. Derek's going to have to play well. Now, his final year in Kansas City, he signed as a free agent with the Jets, and they made the trade. He had 5.5 sacks. He was a good run stuffer. He's not overly, I don't think he's a 3 technique guy, which is something that they just haven't developed, and that's something that they're going to have to look for in the future. They signed 4 or 5 guys on the practice squad for the defensive line. So I guess my biggest concern is how Spags and the defensive line coach, Joe Cullen, are going to be able to manage that defensive line from rotation, depth, who's going to be the other pass rusher. We know George Karlaftis is going to be a beast. Mike Dana is hit or miss. Charles Omenihu, who got no offers comes back with a huge chip on his shoulder. He could be the difference defensively. But Chris Jones, they have to feel comfortable. They have enough inside so he can play outside as well. I think linebackers, the Bolton and Leo Chanel and Drew Tranquil are great. Jeffrey Bassett, the kid from Oregon, watch. He's going to be that linebacker that just hunts the ball. He's got speed to cover tight ends and running backs. He made like 2 or 3 4th down or 3rd and 1, 4-and-1 stops in the preseason. The secondary, I think, is going to be really strong. I'm not sold on Brian Cook as the other safety, but he's healthy this year. Jaden Hicks is a future superstar. So, you got McDuffie and you got Watson. So I think defensively, the only question I have is how Spags and Cullen are going to create enough pressure on opposing quarterbacks, because the Chiefs are playing the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. I think the top, 15, they're probably playing 12 of them this year.
Wow.
And that takes a toll. And I think the mindset's going to be there. Chris Jones, again, going back to the ESPN series, he said at the very end, we'll be back. We'll be in the next Super Bowl, a Super Bowl 60. Here we come. And that kind of mentality. So Chris is going to have to lead them. He's also he's healthy, probably for the first time in a couple of years heading into the regular season. And that's a huge, huge bonus for this team. So to me, Spags has more depth and more talent. You throw in the rookies, Omar Norman-Lott, who's dealing with a knee issue. He should play, and Galati, who I think is going to be a beast. If Galati can get you 5 or 6 sacks this year, then, they got something there. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, Chris Jones is still the leader. I think McDuffie's the leader in the secondary. Nick Bolton's the leader in the linebacker core. But if this adjusted defensive line can rotate enough and get enough pressure and create opportunities for Chris Jones and George Karlaftis in particular, they're probably a top 10 defense. They're not the best defense in the division. The Broncos are the best, period, end of statement. That's the best defense in all of football. I mean, I'm not a Sean Payton guy, but I got to give him props. He has built a monster defense. And Vance Joseph, I think, is the defensive coordinator. He came over after being fired as the head coach, and he comes back. I mean, they have everything you want to challenge the Chiefs. They're going to be their biggest threat this year.
That's kind of to wrap things up, talking about the AFC West. The days of going an automatic 6-0 are over.
Yeah.
For the most part, because you got to go to all those places too, and everybody's improved. I mean, the Raiders add Pete Carroll and draft Ashton Genty, and Geno Smith comes over. They've actually got a QB that has had some success. And then you mentioned the Broncos and the pieces they put together, and adding R.J. Harvey to their backfield with J.K. Dobbins, and then the Chargers with Harbaugh and Omar and Hampton coming in, and they bring Keenan Allen back. Who do you fear the most? It sounds like it's the Broncos, but is it going to be a knockdown drag out in every game in the division this year?
I think so. I think you're going to have to go 4-2 to win the division. I don't think the Chiefs can go 6-0. I like the matchup, Friday night against the Chargers. I think it's a good matchup for the Chiefs. I think the Chargers are still, though Hampton was the guy I wanted. I mean, he was the guy I wanted in the first round. If Josh Simmons hadn't fallen, I would have hoped the Chiefs would have traded up to get him, because he's Jamal Charles. I mean, he's the perfect fit for Andy Reid's offense. So I like the Chargers. The problem with the Chargers is Justin Herbert has not done anything in December, January. He's just not that kind of quarterback. He's Phillip Rivers, great regular season quarterback, but he just can't win in the postseason. And I think that's going to stick with him. I don't think, Jim Harbaugh, who I love, I wanted to be the future coach of the Chiefs one day. That's how much I respect and love this guy. I don't think they're going to be a championship caliber team until they go to their next quarterback, whoever that is. I'm just not high on Justin Herbert. That's just me. Again, statistically, he's one of the best, in the regular season, but that doesn't mean anything. It's all about the rings. It's all about winning games in January. That's what defines you as a great quarterback. Bo Nix in Denver, is he going to have a sophomore slump? He had a rough preseason. He didn't play well. But that doesn't really mean anything. They're testing a lot of offensive linemen, and they're trying to get some young guys involved in the offense. They've got some new faces. But Sean Payton is a master he's a master at offenses. And if he can make a 5'10" Drew Brees be successful, he can make Bo Nix successful as well. And the advantage I think Bo Nix has, the fact that I don't think he's going to have a sophomore slump, is he played 5 years in college. And that's huge. And I wish more quarterbacks would do that. I think that just makes them so much more ready for the NFL game. And then you look at the Raiders and Pete Carroll. I mean, I love Pete Carroll. He's a great coach. They're still the Raiders in my book. They still make questionable, decisions. The ownership is kind of weird. It's kind of one of those, Mark Davis is just not a normal owner, of any kind. And I don't like Geno Smith. I never have. I think it's going to be challenging, but they got some offensive weapons. The kid from Georgia, his name's escaping me. I'm sorry.
Bowers. Yeah.
Bowers to me was like, that was my stand up on the, just trade up. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you give up. Put Bowers in a Chiefs uniform. I hope he's a Chief when he's a free agent. I love this kid. I think he's the best young tight end I've seen come out of college probably in 20 years, probably going back to Gonzalez. And they're different type. They're not the same type of tight end, but Bowers just has everything. And if he and Geno Smith can get on the same page, and Genty can get you 1,200, 1,400 yards. Now, I'm not as high on Genty as a lot of people are. So if you're drafting him in fantasy football, be wary, because I think the kid's going to take some time. I go back to that playoff loss and how he was just bottled up at the line of scrimmage. And that's what he's going to face in the NFL. So all these people think he's going to get you 1,700, 1,800 yards in the NFL. I got another story for you. Maybe his sophomore season in the NFL, but certainly not this season. There's just too much offensive turnaround and things that you have to deal with, to do that. Though, the running back is probably the easiest position to play in the NFL. If you have the vision, you have the court awareness, the field awareness, and you can be responsible enough to block if you have to. But I hesitate. I think Hampton's going to end up having more yards than Genty when it's all said and done at the end of the year. Hampton is special. Hampton is the best running back in this class, no question.
Do the Chiefs have enough to get back? And do you see a Super Bowl rematch with the Eagles? It's the usual suspects with the Ravens, the Bills, the Bengals, people like that. What is, as we wrap it up, what's your final prediction on
we're doing our season preview podcast today at 1:30 Central Time at Chiefs Blitz. And I have made my Super Bowl prediction, and it will be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers. And I made that prediction before the trade for Micah Parsons. I think the Packers are the most complete team in the NFC. Offense, defense, special teams. They've got a young quarterback who has just hit it. He gets it now. I think they've overcome some coaching flaws. I think that they went all in. I mean, they paid Micah Parsons, $47 million? No player is worth $47 million, and I'm including all the quarterbacks. No one player should make that kind of money for a single season to completely destroy your salary cap in the future. And the fact that they made this trade with the board of directors and no ownership in Green Bay, for those that don't know, it's all shareholders. Yeah. And there's a board of directors that runs the franchise. The fact that Jordan Love, and they went all in on him, was a shock. And he's really good. He's a top 5 quarterback, and he's not getting enough credit. So for me, it's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl I. I got the Chiefs going to their 4th straight Super Bowl, and they're going to get their 4th Super Bowl ring under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And the revenge tour is going to be complete. And then the fun will begin going forward, because the Chiefs are still in the midst of a dynasty, in my opinion.
Very good. Well, Nick, we appreciate your time as always. We'll check back with you mid-season or so. And
sounds great.
Again, invite everybody to check out Chiefs Blitz, get some great coverage, podcast, the website. Nick's got it all there. Nick, thanks.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you.
Betcha. Appreciate Nick Athan coming on with us. And we're going to segue to one of our great sponsors. We mentioned the Pitch Pizza and Pub, of course, great place for pizzas, calzones, lunch or dinner. They've got it all there. They're in the Southern Hills Shopping Center, go check out the Pitch Pizza and Pub for lunch or dinner or special meetings if you have one coming up, an event that you need meeting space for. Get with Brian Bevel and his people at the Pitch Pizza and Pub. And our other great sponsor is Thompson Sales. And we wanted to bring in Miles Thompson and talk about some dealership stuff, but also the family's been longtime Chiefs fans. Miles, thanks for joining me. And is Thompson Sales ready for a revenge tour for the Chiefs this year?
Oh yeah, we're ready to go, Scott. How you doing today?
Doing great, thanks.
Awesome.
How long have you guys? I know you've been season ticket holders for a very long time. How long does the Chiefs blood run through the Thompson Sales people?
Oh man, when I was a kid, we used to, we were St. Louis Cardinal fans and Chiefs fans, and we got season tickets for the Chiefs in the late 80s. I'm thinking 88, 87, somewhere around there. And we've had the same season tickets since then. So, yeah, we're going on 35 plus years. And, we've seen the good, bad, and ugly. I mean, the last 6-8 years has been pretty spectacular. But the first 30 years we had those tickets, there wasn't much to cheer about. A lot of heartache.
Wasn't quite a fight over them at the dealership for who's going to which game.
There were some games where we were giving those things away and fighting over who had to go, not who wanted to go.
Well, we just visited with Nick Athan of Chiefs Blitz, one of our favorite longtime guests, and giving his thoughts on the season. What are your expectations of this Chiefs team?
Well, I think, if you look back the last couple of years, what we've accomplished with some of the offensive weapons we've had and still got to the Super Bowl. I mean, we won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with a bunch of cast-offs now and guys that aren't even in the league. I think this year's weapons, with the wide receiver core we have now going forward, is strong, especially when Rice comes back to the end of the year in the playoff push. I think our defense is as good as ever. I mean, we showed what we did last year in the Super Bowl. I know we got blown out, but look what we did with, against Barkley. We shut him down. He had 20 carries for 50 yards is all he did. I mean, that.
Miles, we've kind of lost your audio there for a second. Miles, we've lost your audio for a second. So I don't know if you can still hear me or not. We lost your mic there to that. It had to be award-winning material there. Can you hear me still? Yeah, we've had an audio. We're going to try to bring him back here in a second, but
all right,
we'll talk. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we lost your audio there for a second. Something was cutting in. So are you back with us? Good.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, that had to be award-winning material there that we missed out on about the last 30 seconds. Summarize what you just told us that we missed.
Well, I just think, the defense is a lot better than people give us credit for. And I think the offense, with everyone being healthy and us just having Rice, Rice is going to come back to the end of the year after 6-game suspension.
6'5". Oh, goodness.
We're still having some audio trouble there, Miles, with something's cutting in. I don't know if it's Bluetooth or what, but can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Miles, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm not sure really what's going on here.
Yeah, I think there's something's cutting into your signal because we heard somebody talking about somebody 6'5". So not sure what.
Yeah,
what,
I I don't hear anything here, but so I don't know. But
Okay. We're going to let's wrap this up with some talk about the dealership. And of course, you guys are big fantasy football players.
yep.
If you had a fantasy draft of Thompson Sales cars right now in September, what would be the number one overall pick for most people?
Most number one pick's probably going to be the GMC Sierra. I mean, that's the number one vehicle we have. So many different makes or so many different trim levels. It's kind of a price for everybody. You know, we get the light duty Sierra all the way up to the 1-ton Sierra. So a lot of businesses buying this year. We had a great heavy duty Sierra last month. So, you know, Sierra truck is the number one pick, followed up by probably the Cadillac Escalade, Yukon, the GMC Yukon. And, you know, we got a great lineup. That first round is going to be, it's going to be a lot of good picks there.
Be some guys trying to trade up in draft order, right, to get there. So 1555 East Independence. You guys been in business since 1919. Had your big 106th anniversary sale in the month of July. I imagine that you guys are trying to get rid of some 25 models now to clear out for 26.
Yeah, we had a great month last month. The guys did a wonderful job. We got a great team up here, and we moved out a lot of 25s. We got a probably about a month's supply left, so we're looking in good shape. We're gonna move those out this month. So if you're looking for a great deal, 2025s are here, and they'll be gone here pretty soon. So come on in and see us. We'd love to have you.
You betcha. We'll bring you back on, talk some fantasy stuff here in a week or two, and apologize for
I do have one thing to say. I do play you this week in our league deal, I believe.
Yes.
So, you know, we're going to have to talk about this next week because, you know, we got a little bragging rights going on here.
We will definitely bring it up and look forward to having you and some of your family members on to talk fantasy on this segment. So, Miles, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Scott. See you, buddy. Bye.
Betcha. Miles Thompson of our great sponsor, Thompson Sales. As always, appreciate their support of the program. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties there. I think we had some Bluetooth kicking in from somewhere that was interfering with his audio. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Big thanks to Nick Athan. Go check out ChiefsBlitz.com. We will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.